Was there one incident or one moment, one epiphany, I guess, that caused you to decide to run for office?
You know what, there was. I was an owner of a small business, and we were really struggling like so many other small businesses. And I just heard from so many people that they really felt that they were being underrepresented in Victoria and in the government. And so I talked to a lot of people, and I think that was the moment when someone said, you know, we have so much potential here in this riding, but we don't feel like we're being represented. And that just didn't resonate with me. So I just decided, you know, I'm going to give this a shot and see what we can do.
Oh, good, that's interesting. Tell me, what is it about the BC Liberal platform that you what appeals to you in the platform?
Well, we were very proud of that platform that the Premier outlined on Monday, and for me, it struck very close and dear to my values, and what we've been finding, the values of many British Columbians, if not the majority of British Columbians. Our platform is really based upon two concepts: building and continuing to build a strong economy with a secure tomorrow. Now that's a great tagline. But there's so much behind that, and I think for me it speaks to the values is that in order for our province to be successful, we have to build strong economies. And you know, David, I tell you, for me, I believe that British Columbia is at a crossroads. Some people say to me, well, Doug, you're asking us to choose from left and right, and I say it's not about left or right. It's actually not really about politics. It's about moving forward or moving backwards. And for me, it's about moving forward and giving and empowering the people in this riding with the opportunities to be successful. And within that platform are a lot of solutions for that success, and that's what I intend to focus on, are those solutions applied locally.
Applied locally. When we look at our Columbia River-Revelstoke riding, it's a big place with a lot of different interests and to a certain extent, different problems. Now, many problems are common to us all, but there are others that are different. When you look at the riding as a whole, what do you see, or how do you think that your election as a BC Liberal in LA would change the outcomes for those issues?
Well, to begin with, David, you're absolutely right. It's one of the largest geographical ridings in the province of British Columbia. Since we started our real focused campaign about 3 months ago, even before the writ was dropped, we've put over 17,000 kilometers on our vehicles. So we've done a lot of traveling back and forth. So that in itself is something that is problematic. And I've heard from Revelstoke all the way down to Kimberley, the rural areas down and around Fort Steele, down to the Bull River by the trout hatchery, where there's ranchers down there. We've talked to all those people, and nobody knows what's going on in this riding. Nobody has a clue what's happening in Revelstoke or in Kimberley, yet there's so many like things that are going on. So one of the things that I think is really important for me as an MLA to do is that we're going to unite this riding, and it's never been done before. We're going to bring the riding together, and we have a solution for that. And my intent is that once I'm elected, I'm going to be doing a couple things, to be honest. One of the first things I'm going to do is we're going to establish regional directors, advisory boards, if you will, call it a board, call it whatever you want, in each one of the major centers. And our vision on that is that it will be comprised of different demographics of people. Let's use Revelstoke as an example. So, you know, someone from business, someone from healthcare, someone who didn't vote for me. Because I think it's really important that people understand that as an MLA, it's my job to represent all people, not just the people who voted for me. So that's really important. And by establishing those regional boards, if you will, what our intent is to do is to set some goals and objectives, actual goals and objectives for the areas. So this is what we want to do in Revelstoke. This is really important for us to do it. Now, MLA, go help us get this done. And hold my feet to the fire, accountability. Hold my feet to the fire. And then we will work with the communities, I will work with those communities to achieve those goals. And then on the quarter or the half year, my intent is, and this has happened in Kimberley, this has happened in the Columbia Valley, this has happened in Golden, is to bring those groups together on the quarter or the half year and have some riding discussions. Let's talk about this riding. Let's talk about the things that we can collectively work on together. And that message that I've been sending to people really resonates. And there's some issues that I've been working on actively where people in Kimberley said, well, if we had known that you were working on that in Golden, we could have helped with that. So my intent is to bring this riding together, so that's one of the first things I'll do. I've also been spending an enormous amount of time meeting with women. And I think it's really, really important to understand that women have a completely different perspective, thank goodness, than men. And one of the things that we have about business, about politics, about families, you name it, but one of the things that I've heard from women throughout this riding is that, Doug, you need to bring us together because we want to talk about things that are important to us. And so creating a women's advisory group would also be would be key on my list to do that, to get that kind of advice and listen to those kinds of voices. So I guess what I'm saying, David, is that as an MLA, my number one priority will be bringing the community together so I can start listening to the voices. And I'm an old hockey player. I don't mind getting my elbows up in the corners. And that's my job, is to fight for people in this riding and represent this riding to Victoria and make sure that we're heard. Because we are 6 mountain ranges and a boat ride away from the provincial capital. And they need to hear us, and sometimes you just got to fight for them. So that's kind of some of the first things I'd be doing.
Do you think it's easier or harder to do that if you're a member of that governing party?
You know what? That's a great question. When you're in government, you get to do one thing. You're on the other side of the house, and so on and so forth. I don't think it's difficult, and I'll tell you why. If you're an opposition member, and we're not going to be an opposition member, we're going to be a government side member. But if you're on the other side, it doesn't mean that you can't accomplish things. And I'll give you a few examples, David. Number one, and I'm going to use a opposition member, Corky Evans, who's since retired. And I tell you what, I've talked to so many government ministers about Corky Evans, and they've talked to me about him, is that he was an opposition member. He got more things done for his riding than many, many other MLAs did because he fought for his people. So just because you're in opposition doesn't mean that you get to do nothing. And in the riding itself, I'm not an MLA yet. I'm the general manager of a college, of a campus, a regional campus. People have come to me over the last 2 years because they've known that I get things done. I'm a doer. I don't spend a lot of time talking about it. I like to get things accomplished. And people came to me with issues that they couldn't find satisfaction with the current MLA. And Cherry Creek Falls is a great example down in Kimberley. I am really, really so proud of that community. I got a call, and there was a beautiful little falls. Since time immemorial, been used by families and the community, and a mining tenure had been granted on that falls to a free miner. He was going to do a shale slate kind of operation. And the community obviously was up in arms, and they didn't want that. And so they called me and said, Doug, is there anything you can do to help us? We know you're not the MLA, but is there anything you can do to help us? First thing I did is I said, let me come down and meet you. So they took me down to the falls, and it took me probably 5 minutes to really understand is that, oh, this is wrong. To have a mine here is wrong. Now, with all due respect to the proponent, he had gone through all of the processes. It wasn't his fault. So one of the community members said to me, he said, okay, the government's got to buy this proponent out, $55,000. And I said, the government can't buy this out. This is all the process. I said, the community needs to raise the money. Never can be done, never can be done. So what we did, what I challenged the community was, is I said, here's what we'll do, is that I will do all I can do to get this in front of the right people in government if you go and try to raise some money. So he said, all right, here's the challenge. We'll have a meeting. So we went to that meeting, and I was able to speak at that meeting with the community, and he didn't think that the money could be raised. In that meeting alone, they raised $20,000 from the community. That community raised $55,000 to buy the proponent up. My job, I put it in front of the Minister of Culture. We put this in front of the Minister of Mines. We put this in front of the Minister of Lands, Forest, Natural Resource Operations. And we put it in front of the Premier. The Premier herself knew about Cherry Creek Falls. And guess what, David? A year later, almost to the month, the Gold Commissioner 3 weeks ago made that into a non-stakeable reserve. The community has bought out the proponent, and the RDEK has already passed that area as being a regional park, or in the process of becoming a regional park. Cherry Creek Falls and the proponent won. And at the celebration that we had 3 weeks ago, there were people there who will not vote for me. They will not vote for me, but they were hugging me and they were crying, right? And that's so important to me, because it's not about the vote, it's about doing right for the community. And that's what an MLA does. The MLA supports the community no matter what side of the political spectrum they're on. I am so proud of that community. That's what an MLA can do if you're on the opposition side, because I did it, and I'm the general manager of a college. And there's some other, obviously, stories that we can talk about if you want, because I've accomplished a lot with the help of community members throughout it. So that's what an opposition member should be doing.
Well, briefly, now that you bring up, what other kinds of issues are there?
Well, I was approached by golf course owners. And they were very concerned. Bill Bannett, who was the MLA of Kootenay East, was leading the commission on the use of cosmetic pesticides. But the golf courses didn't feel that their voices were being heard. And they're major employers, they're economic drivers throughout British Columbia. So they came to me and they said straight up, is there anything that you can do to help with this so that we can get an understanding of what's going on? And I said, I don't know, but let me look into it. So long story short, David, I was able to get Minister Terry Lake, Minister of Environment. We had a meeting in Radium with all golf courses owners of the region. The folks from Revelstoke were there. We had golf courses as far away as Vancouver come to Radium Hot Springs to meet with the minister to talk about the use of cosmetic pesticides in golf courses. And it was an incredibly successful meeting. Never been done before with the minister and golf courses. We did that in Columbia River-Revelstoke.
How do you measure the success on something like that?
Well, it was
getting people together.
It was not only getting people together.
A real outcome?
It was an incredible amount of dialogue that went on that day. And what the golf courses needed to hear from the minister is that the minister was not going to ban the use of cosmetic pesticides on golf courses, and that didn't. And the use of it didn't happen. And the reason is I'm a grandfather. I don't use cosmetic pesticides on my own lawn. But when you go into a golf course, you go on there, you can be bumped with a golf ball or hit by a golf club. So when you go onto a golf course, you're consciously knowing that there's things out there whether it's golf balls or whatever. So the outcome of that, David, was simple, is that we were able to get the voices heard to the minister so that they had some reassurance that they were going to be okay. That was key to it. Another issue that's very dear to my heart, and it's ongoing, in Golden. There's a group of people, they call themselves the Causeway Island Crew, but there's a group of people in Golden who have been out on this island up by Bush Harbor for 32 years. They've been using the lands up there. They're Crown lands, there's no question about that. And they've had their trailers there, and they've actually been paying taxes on this land. They've actually been paying taxes. Somebody threw them under the bus. Somebody threw them under the bus. They went and spoke with the current MLA, and he was told there's nothing I can do to help. They phoned me because they hear this guy that seemingly is getting some things done, and they said, "Can I help you? Or can we help you? Or can you help us?" And my answer to them was the same: I don't know. But before I do anything, can I come out and see the site and have you explain it to me? I went out there with the regional director, his name is Gary Hayward. We went and had a visit and saw the issue. We were the only ones that, from a political perspective, that had ever gone out there and with them and looked at the site. And I said, you know what, after 32 years, you guys have got eviction notices on your trailers, you've got fine notices on your trailers, you've been paying taxes on this property, even though it's Crown land. This is really, really wrong.
What's the issue here?
Well, it's Crown, it's Crown land, and in relationship to the Crown land, they don't have ownership to that Crown land, and there's some issues there. You know,
are there squatters?
They're squatters. I didn't want to say that, David, but they're squatters. But by definition.
Yeah.
So there's some issues there around some geotechnical surveys. They think that the mountain might slide down, create a tsunami, And I looked at that report. It was a drive-by and a helicopter drive. There was no science involved in that at all. So what I did is I brought it to the attention of the minister in charge of that area, Steve Thompson. And we talked about it. And that's been a process of over a year now as well. And I'm very, very proud to report that after that year's time and having those people talk to the bureaucrats and having those people talk with the minister and having the minister review the file, they just got letters telling them that their eviction notices have been stayed, their fines have been stayed. It's still ongoing. It's still ongoing, and we're not out of the woods yet, but at least they're satisfied that somebody actually did something to help them. And that's something else I'm incredibly proud of as the general manager of the college. I was able to accomplish that by bringing people together and putting them in the right place in front of the right people.
That's very interesting. What about Revelstoke?
Well, I tell you what, Revelstoke, and again, we just love being in Revelstoke. Susan, my wife, is coming up on Friday night, and we're really looking forward to her spending some time with us here. But one of the things that's really important to Revelstoke is the Trans-Canada Highway. It's a huge issue. Obviously, I think the forestry industry is something that's still very near and dear to the hearts of Revelstokeans. And I've heard from multitudes of people in Revelstoke. I mean, the old adage is that come on, Doug, to Revelstoke during the winter, and you'll get Revel stuck. So we talked about that, and I invited the Minister of Transportation, Mary Pollock, to come and meet with the community. Again, I think it's so important that you get people in front of the people who make the decisions. Now, the Premier had never been over the Rogers Pass. When she came here to Revelstoke and visited, she went over the Rogers Pass, was blown away by how beautiful it is here, absolutely blown away by it. Understood the issue that Rogers Pass and the Trans-Canada Highway presents. Mary Pollock came here, hadn't been over the Rogers Pass since she was a little child. Drove over with the mayor of Revelstoke, had him the opportunity to discuss with her the issues, and when she got to the golden side, she said, we got some significant work to do here. We got some significant work. So the point of that is that, again, it's all about getting the people in front of the people who make the decisions and fighting for those people. I'm not in government, but I was able to get the minister here. With all due respect, I think that's something that the MLA should have been working hard to do.